All right, you and I are diving in. One blink, bam, our guy is 17 again, right in the middle of his future wife's high school era, but this time around, his mind is totally made up. He is living a completely different life. From now on, just a silent spectator in the background, fading out completely, watching her step into the dazzling glory that she actually deserves. Even if that beautiful, shining future has absolutely zero room for his existence. He is totally cool with that, and then ring, ring, ring. Clang, 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 the school bell rings, crystal clear and absolutely deafening. The chaotic, buzzing energy of the entire classroom is instantly snuffed out by that massive bell. Dead silence drops instantly. High school days are basically exactly like this, those glorious, super short breaks, gone in the blink of an eye. The hallways empty out fast. The air carries that super distinct scent of teenagers ready to drown in a massive ocean of knowledge, or, sweat. The stampede of teenage footsteps from seconds ago, all that intense, rapid-fire gossiping, wiped totally clean, like absolute magic. Everyone just merges right into one single stream. Meanwhile, our boy shrinks back into his corner in the last row. Nobody gives a single hoot about a bottom-feeding delinquent like him. His eyes stay locked on the classroom door, intensely watching the girl who just walked in. Her name, Evelyn, sounds pretty elegant, doesn't it? Yeah, absolutely. He suddenly catches himself. The corners of his mouth are creeping into a goofy smile. He quickly snaps out of it and smacks his own cheek hard. Behind those glasses are her beautiful eyes. She looks exhausted. The dark circles under them are painfully obvious. She definitely stayed up way too late grinding through endless mock exams again. She doesn't look flashy at all, barely even stands out in a crowd. But get this, we both know this invisible girl is the legendary scholar of the entire grade, the absolute queen of the science department. She has sat firmly on that academic throne for 3 straight years. That is his future wife. Wait. No, now that he is back in time, she is destined to be a star in the aerospace industry, or maybe a highly respected professor in the physics world. Who knows, she might even stand shoulder to shoulder with absolute legends like Stephen Hawking. But she made her choice. She absolutely shouldn't be dragged down by a certified loser like him. Seeing that the classroom seats are filling up fast, he just stares at her for 3 last seconds. Then he unties his long-sleeved uniform jacket from his waist and throws it on properly. Meanwhile, the homeroom teacher, Mr. Harrison, rushes in carrying a massive, terrifying stack of test papers. He looks dead serious. All right, everyone, time for a pop quiz. Mr. Harrison's flat, emotionless voice completely shatters the quiet peace of the room. The entire class instantly erupts into a panicked frenzy, but they only dare to secretly grumble a few complaints before accepting their miserable fate and pulling out pens and paper. His eyebrow twitches. His heart is completely filled with pure annoyance, because you and I know, returning to high school days, this is easily the absolute worst part. A mini quiz every 2 days, a massive exam every 3 days. He lets out a heavy, silent sigh, closes the textbook, which is honestly way cleaner than his own face, and just casually tosses it into the pile of books on the floor. He actually dug through a literal mountain of junk to find that book. Turns out it is completely useless anyway. Evelyn, the strict teacher. All right, let's watch this play out. The teacher calls her name. Evelyn calmly approaches, counting the math exams. She starts passing them out to the very front row. Task complete, she smooths her skirt and sits down with absolutely flawless, perfect elegance. Her posture completely straight. She casually tears off a piece of clean scratch paper. Meanwhile, the rest of the class looks like they are about to start sobbing. Pure panic. Only Evelyn and our main character share the exact same chill expression. Absolute chill. She is completely confident in her skills. As for our regressor here, he is chilling for a totally different reason. He already knows his score, 0. You really cannot expect a guy who graduated years ago to suddenly solve an advanced high school math exam. Paper rustles loudly through the dead quiet room. Evelyn grabs her test from the student sitting directly in front of her. The guy begs, "Oh great scholar, please bless me with some of your brain cells." She just gives him a soft, very polite smile, but as she raises her arm, her sleeve slips down, revealing a glimpse of dazzlingly pale skin. Our hero zones out completely. The rustling papers finally snap him back to reality, making him realize he has been staring at Evelyn like a total creep. He just could not help it. A sudden sting hits his cheek, forcing him to physically tear his eyes away from her back. Calculating the distance, he waits for the test papers. He holds up 2 fingers near the guy's shoulder. Noticing an old burn scar on his index finger, he naturally reaches into his pocket. Sure enough, he pulls out a lighter and half a pack of breath mints. Used to be smokes, but hey, our guy has to stay out of trouble now. In his past life, absolutely zero academic knowledge ever actually entered this dude's brain. The test papers are still moving down the row, but then, the student in front of him whispers, "We are completely out of copies." Then the guy just turns around. What the heck? Honestly, that is fantastic news. Only an absolute idiot would even want to take this exam anyway. Yeah, but his celebration lasts 2 seconds. You and I know what happens next. Harrison spots his completely empty desk. The teacher's eyebrows instantly scrunch into a tight knot. He looks ridiculously stressed out. Our hero seriously considers just walking right up there and ironing out those wrinkles, but remembering how this teacher got filthy rich off stocks and lived like a boss in his past life, he drops the idea. Let him frown today. The man does not have many years of stress left. Soon enough, Harrison will not have a single thing to worry about anymore. Our guy flashes him a bright, sunny smile. Result, the teacher frowns even harder. Harrison looks like he just saw a literal ghost in broad daylight. Wild. The smile completely vanishes from our hero's face, but surprisingly, the teacher's expression quickly goes back to normal. He actually looks like a massive burden just lifted. What the heck? What kind of weird reaction was that? Back in his past life, his only real crime was hating books. It is not like he was some villain. At most, he just successfully wooed the absolute top school beauty, the exact girl Harrison treated like pure gold. Remembering this, all of his rebellious pride completely vanishes into thin air. He drops his head, eyes fully lowered. He silently swears, "Evelyn, in this timeline, you will never deal with a scumbag like him again," while he sits there mourning his past life, an uninvited presence. All right, you and I are starting with an unexpected guest. One look instantly gave him a headache. He followed that calloused finger pointing at his desk, meeting Evelyn's completely blank stare. She handed him the paper, saying she would just grab an extra copy for herself. Her high ponytail brushed her neck as she gracefully tilted her head down. Those long eyelashes fluttered. His arm, previously resting under his chin, suddenly dropped, and then it hit him. He finally remembered. He knew exactly when he had responded. Yep, right in this exact moment, Evelyn was just completely nice to every single student equally. In his previous life, he took this paper and scribbled complete garbage all over it. His head was completely full of nothing but Evelyn, but right then, just as she turned to leave, he suddenly shot straight up from his chair. Making a totally different choice this time around, he quickly snatched the test paper, shoving it right back into her hands, accidentally brushing against her palm. Crazy soft, by the way. He faked a jerkish scoff, shoved one hand in his pocket, and practically glared right at Mr. Harrison at the front. Claimed he didn't know the answers anyway. Too lazy. He dropped that line like an absolute edgy rebel. The top students who were buried in their tests turned around, sneaking shocked glances at him. 2 totally different worlds right there. This is exactly why in his past life, even with absolutely terrible garbage grades, he still had quite a few innocent teenage girls crushing on him, young girls always helplessly falling for the classic bad boy charm. Meanwhile, Evelyn just stood there, completely stunned, zero reaction, and wearing those thick black glasses. She looked ridiculously adorable. Oh boy, he swallowed hard, suddenly terrified. That keeping eye contact would ruin his genius plan. He quickly jerked his head away, leaving Mr. Harrison blowing actual steam out of his ears. He proudly marched right out of the classroom. Look, he was just terrible at studying, all right. It wasn't like his personality was garbage. Even hating school, he definitely shouldn't bother the kids who actually cared to learn. Reaching the door, he threw a casual wave at Mr. Harrison, a little goodbye gesture. Seriously, no wonder he managed to woo Evelyn in his past life. The guy definitely had undeniable charm. Even he was speechless at his own swagger. Holding his head high, he practically strutted out that door. Mr. Harrison's deadly glare tracked him like high beams all the way down the hallway. First, he strolled past the dean's office without a single care, then faked a sad face, heading for the school gates, only to get blocked by Bob the security guard. Looking down, he suddenly remembered. Right, he was still wearing his stupid uniform. He stood there desperately haggling with the guard for a solid 10 minutes, trying every sweet excuse in the book, but Bob flat out refused to let him leave. He even pointed his weird, pronged security stick right at his neck. He glanced at those smoke-stained yellow fingers. Instantly, he grabbed a mint from his pocket. You and I can pretend it was classy. Tossed it up, catching Bob off guard. With a quick flick, he threw a crumpled piece of paper in a perfect arc. It landed dead center in the guard's coffee mug on the desk. Absolute three-pointer. And while Bob the guard frantically grabbed his mug, furious about his ruined coffee, by the time he looking up, that guy watched our hero's majestic silhouette completely fade into the distance. Our MC didn't run far before spinning right back around. Two fingers tapped his forehead, a silent salute. Goodbye forever, wasted youth. Anyway, phase one of this crazy plan. Total success. Above him, the morning sky looked like a painter had just gently brushed it with vivid pastel colors. Down below, the local street shops were already opening up, one by one. Breakfast stalls steamed hot, delicious aromas floating everywhere. And yeah, his stomach instantly grumbled back. That's when it hit him. He hadn't eaten a single thing all morning. Flipping his worn-out pockets completely inside out, he barely managed to scrape together $2.50. His teenage self, literally poorer than dirt right now. Whatever, skipped the food, business first. Standing right in front of those towering skyscrapers, he realized it had been way too long. He couldn't even actually remember where his old doghouse of an apartment even was. It took a ridiculous amount of brain power to dig through those blurry past memories. The alley he found was insanely narrow, and the wild greenery on both sides, aggressively overgrown, thick branches of an old tree hanging super low. Ah, yep, this was definitely the right rundown apartment complex. The cheap paint on these walls was completely peeling off. It even still had his old childhood scribbles. He sprinted straight upstairs, glared at the rotting wooden door right in front of him, took a breath, and Sparta kicked it. Bang. A massive crash echoed, instantly followed by a brutal shooting pain rushing right up his leg. Absolute agony. Ouch. He grabbed his leg, totally wincing and hopping around for a solid few seconds. Then he glared at the battered door, sawdust raining down, but that cheap lock, holding strong like an absolute tank. He frowned deeply. Holy crap, thankfully, all that crazy racket had finally woken up the old drunkard inside. Our MC ran his tongue over his molars. The old man yanked open the door, and seeing him, the geezer squinted hard at the bright daylight. What the heck are you doing back here? He asked with pure disgust, immediately reaching right over for a cheap bottle of booze right next to him. Our guy glanced at the absolute mess inside the house, shoved the geezer aside, and walked straight into his own room, though his space was messy compared to the living room, basically a 5-star hotel. He flipped his mattress. Now you and I both know what happens next. His past life savings, already stolen by that geezer for booze money. He let go. The incredibly thin mattress slammed back down, sending a huge cloud of dust flying right up into the air. You little punk, hiding money in my house. Did you seriously think you could pull a fast one on me? The old man slouched back on the sofa, smugly swirling the cheap bottle in his hand. His flushed, alcohol-reddened face made our hero's stomach completely churn. His fingers slowly curled tight into fists until the sharp pain bit right into his palms. Only then did he realize he was already standing right up in the old man's face. Get the hell out. But before the guy could even finish his sentence, our MC grabbed his jaw, his grip absolutely iron tight, forcing the man's mouth wide open, revealing a look of pure, utter shock. Before he could even curse, our hero snatched the bottle right from his hand, rough and totally decisive. The cheap booze foamed up from the sudden violent motion. Stick with me here, because he showed zero mercy. He violently shoved the bottle right to the geezer's lips, making him choke on his precious liquid. Courage, the old man's eyes rolled straight back. Desperate gurgling sounds echoed from his throat. He tried to struggle, but he was absolutely no match for our guy. Honestly, for a long time now, he had been physically stronger than this drunk. Where is the money? Our hero barked at Julian. Let's go, you little dog. You dare treat your father like this. The old man springs up, completely furious, raising a hand to slap him hard. But his balance is garbage. That gross, sticky booze on his hands makes Julian want to throw up. He isn't wasting a single breath on this useless drunk. He steps right in and grabs the guy's collar. Cheap booze drips all down the old man's filthy shirt. Right then, the deadbeat finally realizes the massive power gap between them. Basic survival instinct kicks in, completely destroying any fake liquid courage. Staring into those bloodshot eyes, Julian looks calm, but honestly, absolutely unhinged. He forces his so-called father to look him dead in the eyes, his voice pure ice. He asks it again. Where is the money? The old guy stares like he is looking at an alien. Julian tightens that grip. Reality finally sinks in. Out of pure habit, his dad pats his inner jacket pocket. Oh, so he hid it there. Julian shoves him back, ripping the jacket wide open to find those crisp bills, but nope, just a few sad, crumpled notes left inside. A completely familiar draining helplessness hits him hard, just quiet, suffocating anger. Honestly, it is mostly for his future self dealing with this garbage. Years down the line, when Evelyn and he actually got married, this exact deadbeat had the sheer nerve to appear. Julian had completely banned him from entering. Others didn't know, but Julian knew his dirty tricks way too well. He only wanted to steal the wedding cash. Julian stands up, totally refusing to stay in this filthy dump one more second. He slams the door hard, ignoring the muffled trash talk behind him. He just runs. The streets around him start looking more familiar. That heavy, racing heartbeat of his finally begins calming down. Especially when he looks up at the pale moon hanging in the dark sky. He feels grounded again. He leaves his head tilted back, just staring up at the sky, staring for a really long time, until bam, some huge shadow violently tackles him to the ground. Holy crap, it is Bob, the security guard. Why isn't he watching the gate? What is he doing out here? Bob says nothing, just locks him in an absolute chokehold. Julian's heart skips a beat. A horrible feeling washes over him. Sure enough, the pale, seriously stressed face of Mr. Harrison shows up, right beside him, another guy who looks way too familiar. Honestly, it isn't until they literally drag him straight into the main school office that Julian finally realizes who this guy is. Wait, is that Mr. Stern, the discipline teacher? Man, long time no see. Julian, look at you, just look at you. Mr. Stern is completely furious. He points a visibly shaking finger right at Julian's face and actually cannot form a sentence for 30 whole seconds. Hearing his name after so many years leaves Julian completely stunned. That old drunk back home only ever called him a total bastard or punk, drinking 24/7. The guy was always completely wasted. Eventually, someone had to snap. So in his past life, you and I know that once his relationship with Evelyn actually stabilized, he practically begged her to give him a proper name. She was brilliant, super educated. It took her days to finally figure it out, and his original name, Chad, he threw that straight into the garbage bin years ago. now trapped in this intense three-way interrogation, just watching Mr. Stern's mouth flap open and shut. Julian just starts zoning out. His eyes grow heavy. He lets out a little yawn. Completely bored, he turns and locks eyes with the furious Mr. Harrison. He even flashes the guy a cheeky grin. Who knew a teacher's eyes could bug out so far they almost pop straight out of his skull. Wow, Mr. Stern was completely out of words. Chad, not a single reaction, guessing enough. Time had passed. Our guy stood up, slammed his hands right on the desk. Sir, the moment Chad spoke, Mr. Stern's eyelids started twitching, glaring at him like he wanted to set the kid ablaze. Even his teacher mug rattled hard. Chad, the teacher snapped, pulling his old name for the school files. His voice suddenly cracked, going up a whole octave. Chad just nodded, super casually. Yes. Present, this dropout form needs a parent's signature. You literally cannot just scribble that you quit on a scrap piece of paper and call it a day. Chad pretended to understand, nodding deeply. Then, while Mr. Stern and Mr. Harrison stared in total confusion, our guy grabbed a pen, forged his dad's signature with bold, dragon-like strokes. Done, and just like that, he pushed the paper right back to them. Dead silence from the two teachers. You could actually hear them breathing heavier. I don't have a mom, and my drunk dad does not care about me. When he dropped that bombshell, their expressions completely softened up. Honestly, the scolding Mr. Stern was about to unleash just melted away. So what are your plans now? Starting a business, sir. I have everything fully mapped out. The two of them wasted so much breath trying to stop him, though their tone was way softer than before. Not that Chad was actually listening, in one ear and right out the other. Now watch this. Seeing the standoff fail, Chad, acting like a complete saint, decided to compromise. He grabbed the dropout form right from Mr. Stern. Then, like he just remembered something huge, he executed an absolutely flawless Premier League slide tackle, dropped right at their feet. Mr. Harrison, please, sirs, lend me some startup capital. I am begging you, man. Educated people are absolute softies at heart, relying purely on his silver tongue. Chad managed to pocket a few crisp bills, skipping happily toward the school gates. First, he flagged down the local scrap guy, telling him to wait. Then, under the highly suspicious stare of Bob the guard, our guy marched proudly back right into the classroom. The pop quiz was over. Students were complaining loudly like a flock of birds about how brutal it was. Seeing him enter, the room went totally silent. Chad, where did you run off to? One kind student asked. He casually shrugged, completely ignoring the question. Adjusting his uniform jacket, he just aggressively shoved every single textbook from his desk right inside, leaving only the somewhat clean ones. The ones without stick figures scribbled everywhere, sitting on the desk. Chad, what on earth are you doing right now? The guy sitting up front asked. His tone was full of actual concern. Evelyn also stopped writing, turned right around and stared at him in pure confusion. Chad noticed her arm resting on a completely brand new practice booklet. That was just her vibe, naturally gifted, yet working way harder than literally anyone else. He did not dare look her in the eyes. Under the spotlight of the whole class, Chad boldly shouted, I am dropping out. These books on the desk are basically brand new. The whole classroom erupted in loud gasps. You and I cannot blame them. They were total obedient nerds. Dropping out was like a wild sci-fi concept to them. Chad tied his uniform sleeves into a tight knot, slinging his giant hobo sack of books over his shoulder. From the corner of his eye, he felt it. He barely took 3 steps before leaping straight onto the teacher podium. You are all top-tier students. You have got to. He tells them, study hard. Make me your absolute worst example. Just keep being the smart nerds they are. Their futures incredibly bright in his first life. You and I know he basically stalked Evelyn nonstop, though she actually sort of liked him too. That awkward tension between them never really broke until our guy followed her to college, working completely random jobs to chase her for another solid year. Only then did they make it official. Looking back at it, the fact that the #1 student lowered her standards A massive part of it was probably because of the crushing nightmare of senior year, the absolute thrill of pure rebellion, the smartest girl in school suddenly kicking it with the absolute worst student. Epic speech finished, our boy just turns around and walks away. He literally cannot help himself. Good teachers are just like that, even when the biggest failure in school wants to drop out, they genuinely feel heartbroken over it. When our main character hits the door, he leans straight into Mr. Harrison and whispers real fast, "From now on, just use me as your negative example in class. I promise I will not sue you for copyright stuff." As Mr. Harrison gets mad, reaching for his trusty wooden ruler to smack him, our guy completely reads the attack animation and books it out of there. He hauls his massive bag of books, but hitting the front gates, Bob the guard instantly blocks him with a steel grabber. He just flashes his signed exit pass right in his face and proudly struts out of school. Our guy sells every single textbook in his bag to the local scrap guy. "Kid, are you really quitting school?" Bob the guard asks from the side, sounding pretty genuinely concerned. He waves his hand off. Without even glancing back, he says, "Yep, I am officially out. I am just not built for academic life anyway." Saying that, he presses his two fingers together, tossing a super lazy salute backwards straight at the school. Consider this goodbye. This time, he has officially cut the messy fate between him and Evelyn. If she follows her actual life path in this life, there is a 99% chance they never meet again, and that is for the best. Gripping the massive fortune in his pocket super tight, he walks a huge lap around the city, finally locking down the perfect starting point for his empire. He whips out his cash and shouts out loud, "Boss, the moon plan step 2 is officially underway." That very night, exactly as planned, he cleans up his room. A little walks right out without a single second of hesitation, letting out a heavy breath. He hits the streets, scouting out prime locations for where his new business empire should finally begin. He wanders so long the sky turns pitch black. He munches on a cheap steamed bun. Dinner sorted. Cannot complain when he is completely broke right now. But finishing up his scouting, he suddenly slams the brakes, ducking right behind wall. He spots Evelyn clutching her backpack tight, sprinting home in a total panic. He stares at her wide open bag and her totally messed up uniform. His eyes instantly narrow. Evelyn always treated her school books like sacred, holy artifacts. This looks very bad. He grabs a handful of dirt, casually picks up a rotten wooden plank, and charges straight into the dark alley she had just run out of. The second he gets inside, he spots 3 punks with bleached blonde hair. He sees the pink wallet they tossed on the dirty ground. In a split second, he puts it together. Evelyn just got mugged. "Oh, hell no, you 3 little rats, stick with me here." Those blonde punks spotted him instantly. One punk whistled loud, sizing up his uniform. They completely thought he was just a walking ATM. He pulled out an unlit mint, aiming it right at them. He grinned like an absolute maniac, stepping closer. Just when those thugs thought he was handing over his lunch money, he suddenly threw a handful of dirt straight into their eyes, while they doubled over, frantically rubbing their stinging faces and cursing loudly. He whipped a wooden plank from behind his back. He delivered a legendary absolute beatdown. In his past life ever since he chased Evelyn, he completely stopped fighting, mostly just because she hated violence. It had literally been years since he threw hands. Honestly, it really took a massive toll on him. He touched the fresh cut on his lip and sprinted for his life. While hopping a brick wall for a quick shortcut, he accidentally stepped right on a sleeping dog, ended up getting chased for 3 whole blocks. He somehow reached Evelyn's apartment building right before she showed up. Watching her grab that dropped wallet, he turned around and slipped quietly into the shadows. Rubbing the dark bruise on his face, he eyed the cloudy sky. After running the math, he finally invested his startup cash at a busy intersection right by a high school. Not only was the foot traffic super heavy, but the escape routes were absolutely perfect if city management Chased him, he could pedal that tricycle away at max speed, but he never, ever expected to run straight into Mr. Harrison here. Extra spice, extra. Numbing heat, the perfect thank you for his first angel investor, seeing the man. Hesitating there, our guy aggressively shoved a hot sausage right into his hands. Customers had been arriving in massive waves. The stall that was buzzing just seconds ago completely died down. He casually stuffed a sausage into his own mouth. Is this the business you mentioned? Mr. Harrison asked, sounding pretty cautious, terrified of shattering the kid's fragile ego, but our guy was completely chill about the whole thing. Honestly, Mr. Harrison acted like he ran some illegal street cartel. Don't underestimate this little stall, sir. I make an absolute killing out here. I'll pay back your investment super fast. He flipped sausages while talking like a future street food tycoon. Seriously, this recipe was absolute perfection. He just shook his head, brushing it off. After a long, awkward pause, the teacher finally asked the real burning question. Are you planning to go back to school? Now, why study? People can't even find decent jobs nowadays. He wiped down the hot grill, eyeing his painfully empty stall. He started grumbling to himself. Normally, it is prime rush hour. Why is nobody walking this way right now? He wiped grease off his hands, talking away, but most importantly, he remembered the dishwashing money he secretly saved up. Like an absolute idiot, he hid it at home, and his drunk dad wiped it completely clean. In his past life, he still had a naive student mindset. He stressed over that cash so much he lost sleep entirely. In this regression, total enlightenment, he just let it all go. He wiped his face, eyeing his ragged clothes. Now you and I are wondering, why aren't the students coming over? While wondering about this, he accidentally glanced at the teacher beside him, who was awkwardly pursing his lips. He immediately knew exactly what the problem was. Whether Harrison wanted it or not, our guy shoved another. Chad shoves a sausage right into Mr. Harrison's hand. Sir, just hold it. If you don't, our boy is gonna lose every single customer. But Mr. Harrison just isn't getting the hint, that is, until he spots a huge mob of students suddenly swarming in. Only then does it finally click. His terrifying teacher aura was totally scaring the kids away. Let's be real, students are biologically hardwired to be terrified of teachers. Finally paying customers, Chad frantically collects cash, buzzing around like an absolute bee. Out of the corner of his eye, he spots Mr. Harrison still standing completely frozen. Chad casually asks him, how did the recent pop quiz go? Oh boy, very well, everyone kept their grades up. Mr. Harrison looks incredibly relieved, holding that sausage up high like a victory torch. Honestly, Chad feels pretty touched. He never expected his teacher to act as a literal mascot just for customers. First place is still Evelyn, right? Do you even have to ask? Evelyn is undisputed first place. Solid as a rock, nobody can touch her. Mr. Harrison's voice is absolutely bursting with pure pride. Hearing that, Chad just subconsciously nods. Evelyn, she has always been so perfect, totally unburdened by him or any messy future baggage. She is meant to stand on the absolute highest peak. The oil sizzles loudly on the grill, a few drops splatter, stinging Chad's hand. He stares at the massive crowd of kids right in front of him. It's not even the weekend. Mr. Harrison, don't you have classes today? Seeing our MC practically drowning in orders, the teacher frees one hand, trying to help collect the cash. No need, sir. The senior class went on a hiking trip today. My group just got back. I just walk a bit faster, that's all. He sighs dramatically. Kids today have terrible stamina. Every single one of them walks slower than this old man. The exact second those words hit Chad, pure panic completely washes over him. Our boy shoots his head up and sees Mr. Harrison happily waving into the distance. The grease from his sausage drips down the skewer, getting all over his hands. Chad follows his gaze. Seemingly endless line of senior students appears right in his sight. With just one glance, his radar locks straight onto Evelyn in the crowd. She's whispering to the classmate right beside her, a gentle smile gracing her lips. she looks so incredibly relaxed and happy. Chad quickly ducks down, skillfully pretending to be completely hyper-focused on the grill. He buries his head so low, he basically wants to dive straight into the roasting pan. "Hey students, over here." Instantly, the teacher draws the attention of the entire mob. Chad grits his teeth, glaring daggers at him only to see him winking back proudly. "Isn't this Chad? Long time no see." "Yeah. Right, the class feels super weird without you. Haha." Chad forces out the absolute most textbook customer service smile. That statement, yeah, about as wildly fake as it gets, without a bottom feeder like him dragging them down. The class average must have absolutely skyrocketed. Mr. Harrison slaps Chad's shoulder hard, waving his hand exactly like some generous billionaire. "Today's treat is on me. I'm buying sausages for the entire class. Just tell Chad your order." "Thank you, Mr. Harrison." "Thanks, Chad." Someone in the crowd randomly yells that out, instantly triggering a massive tsunami of "Thank you, Chad. If you and I didn't know better, we'd think he just donated a whole new library to the school." Chad sneakily peeks at Evelyn, seeing her curiously looking around. He quickly snaps his gaze back, facing all those bright, youthful, innocent faces. Our guy flashes his absolute brightest smile. I mean, how could he take? "All right, you and I are diving in. Keep your money, it is all free today." "Dude, you are the absolute best," the kids cheered. Mr. Harrison stood right next to him, trying to protest, but with lightning speed, our guy snatched a sausage right from his hand and shoved it directly into the teacher's mouth. These students were super hyped up, but still a bit shy. The kids with cash absolutely insisted on paying. Those without money, literally drooling over the grill, eventually forced him to completely hide his cash box. He personally handed out every single skewer. If any kid was just way too shy, he just shoved the food right into their hands. Super simple, highly effective strategy. Even though his own grades were absolute trash, he always had a soft spot for these students, totally simple minds with zero bad intentions. But right now, even with Mr. Harrison helping out, our guy was completely swamped. He stared at one sausage on the far right of the grill, perfectly crispy and golden. He carefully picked it up, lightly dusting it with extra chili powder. "Evelyn, this one is for you." When her name left his lips, his heart practically burst into flames. Evelyn just looked at him, slightly surprised. Her eyes sparked with pure joy. She snatched the skewer right from his hand, unable to resist taking a massive bite right away. In his previous life, whenever he took her out on dates, he always ordered one spicy dish and one plain one. "Wow, Evelyn, your skewer is grilled to absolute perfection." "Really?" She immediately took a massive bite and instantly got blasted by the chili powder, making her completely squeeze her eyes shut tight. She subconsciously stuck out her tongue, frantically fanning it. He pretended to look totally shocked. "Man, Evelyn, your luck is seriously top tier." "Gee, thanks." "Man." Evelyn's frown instantly relaxed, opening up like a blooming flower. Behind those thick glasses, her eyes were shining, completely sparkling with a clear, beautiful light. He used to love teasing her so much. Whenever she got totally sick of studying, he would sneakily take off her glasses and kiss those beautiful eyes, staring right into her hazy, dreamy gaze and pull her tightly into his arms. Well, Evelyn was very happy right now. But the exact second her eyes met his, a faint blush crept right behind her ears. Then he suddenly realized something. Today he was wearing a tight white tank top with a jacket casually tied around his waist. The heavy outline of his chest muscles was honestly super obvious, plus a grease stain on his stomach made the shirt cling right to his skin. Hey, this is just competitive business strategy. If it was not for those seriously good looks, his stall would never do way better than the guys next to him. "Evelyn, make sure you study hard." Hearing him say that, she immediately looked up and smiled at him. That smile was very faint, carrying a polite, distant courtesy. After that awkward moment, our guy just kept his head down working. He literally did not dare look up once until Mr. Harrison checked his watch and led his massive student army away. Only then did he lift his head greedily tracing the gorgeous silhouette of Evelyn walking away, her long, dark ponytail. Swung in the wind, her whole body radiated pure confidence. There was absolutely not a single shadow of the fragile woman tormented by postpartum depression back in his previous life. Because his own education level was so incredibly low, he could not find a decent job anywhere, so he ran off to the exact city where Evelyn was attending college, the top female scholar and the total failure. You and I know this love story sounds incredibly romantic, right? But in harsh reality, our MC actually lived in constant fear of losing her forever, because honestly, Evelyn was just way too outstanding. She would often visit his food stall to help out after classes. If she ever bumped into her college classmates, she proudly called him her boyfriend. But let's be real, even if people kept quiet, they all thought giving her to him was like throwing a perfect jasmine flower straight into the garbage. Our guy refused to drag her down, so he braced himself and worked himself to absolute exhaustion. Now, Evelyn was sharp. She instantly picked up on his weird vibe and actually borrowed money from her parents. But seeing those red, crying eyes, he clenched his jaw hard. He made a vow right there to never let her suffer with a broke nobody. He took every single cent from his side hustles, combined it with her family's cash, and bet it all. He launched a huge sausage production business. Every ounce of effort was just for the woman he loved. The exhaustion never even registered for a second. Instead, his whole world was totally overflowing with pure hope, real hope for their future together. Honestly, he never thought his crazy gamble would actually succeed and build a great reputation. Later, when Evelyn went after her master's degree, those insane research costs she needed to handle were entirely paid for right out of their shared bank account. Life was finally moving perfectly, and while she was busy chasing that degree, they actually got married. The names written on their house deed, hers and her parents' names, because truthfully, his own family was just one miserable, toxic old drunk. He wouldn't let that guy touch a single penny. But right as Evelyn started preparing for her PhD, boom, she discovered she was pregnant. To them, this was the absolute ultimate proof of their love. After talking things through, Evelyn made the choice to keep their baby. She stayed home to take care of herself. Obviously, her academic goals paused. And his factory, get this, thanks to some wild internet rumors about his sausage ingredients, the business hit a huge wall. Sales dropped to zero immediately. During that brutal time, he was working himself into total madness. Meanwhile, Evelyn fell into a deep depression. Because she couldn't help with the money problems, she would constantly hide away and cry when he wasn't looking. Soon after, she delivered their gorgeous daughter, but quickly fell victim to terrible postpartum depression. And it was only right then that our guy finally realized how truly horrifying mental illness really was. He was her husband. Why on earth didn't he spot the signs sooner? Sure, Evelyn was always trying to be perfectly considerate, doing her absolute best not to stress him out, but he knew that factory crisis made her feel entirely trapped. Her dreams of studying were put on indefinite hold. Becoming a mother for the first time completely overwhelmed her. Every single thing piled up at once, trapping her in the role of a standard housewife. She was a genius, an incredible person, basically a rose in full bloom, just fading away day after miserable day. He sat and thought about this for ages. The bright moon belongs way up in the sky, shining its brilliant light. It should never be chained down by a family. It should never be trapped by the title of wife. She needed to be Evelyn, not just somebody's spouse or mother, even though his mortal heart was still desperately reaching for that clear moon. The high heavens are impossible to touch. Evelyn, right from the very start, should have never been dragged down by a loser like him. The shadowy figures of passing students vanished into the distance. He stood frozen there, silently watching those energetic kids walk away. Boss, give me one grilled sausage. A random passing customer suddenly handed him $3. He eagerly took the cash right away, asking exactly what flavor the guy wanted, totally on autopilot. He kept working until the sky turned pitch black, just As he was packing up the stall, he spotted that old drunk clutching a liquor bottle. Charging right at him like a maniac, the guy took a huge gulp of booze, looking like, "All right, you and I are watching this unfold." Our guy just raises an eyebrow. This old man actually tracked him down here, and honestly, finding him this late at night is crazy. The guy screams, "You punk, selling my stuff. Have I been too nice?" He violently slams his hand onto the main character's tricycle. Looks like he wants to smash that ride completely. Just absolute comedy right here. Did he really think a crowd watching would stop our guy from hitting him? What an absolute joke. His biggest past life regret, letting this deadbeat father slide for way too long. He snatches the wrist, violently twisting it backward. The pain hits so hard, Rick actually screams for his mommy on the spot. Our boy easily drags him aside. "I didn't sell everything," he shoots back. "Aren't I literally using some of it right now?" But the old geezer, completely pinned and trapped, starts darting his eyes around like a desperate cornered rat. One glance and our main character knows this guy is cooking up something nasty. Yep, next second, boom, he throws himself into the dirt, throwing a massive tantrum. Rolling around like a toddler. "Help, murder, my unfilial son is beating his dad. Everyone come look," he is beating his dad, legs wildly kicking up dirt. Absolutely ruining those already foul, completely wrinkled clothes, and the crowd's reaction. Some are shocked, some feel bad, but most just do not care. Standing there, watching it happen. But nobody steps in. Our guy just quietly watches this pathetic circus act. Letting this ridiculous farce play out, back in his past life, when things hit rock bottom, this geezer pulled the exact same stunt on Evelyn. Throwing a massive fit, dragging his poor wife right into the busy street. Why? Just to squeeze cash out of them, as their factory went totally bankrupt. All to buy more booze. Evelyn knew he was shameless, but come on. She never imagined he could stoop this incredibly low, especially back then when her severe depression was finally showing tiny signs of improvement. She carried their baby out, only to get judged by a clueless crowd. That look of pure, helpless embarrassment before she married him. Evelyn was highly respected. She never had to suffer through this kind of humiliation, watched like a circus animal, and now this incredibly thick skin. It perfectly overlaps with those pitch-dark memories from his tragic past life. His hardened heart suddenly explodes with absolute, violent irritation right here. He violently grabs the collar, lifting the old man clean off the dirt. His eyes completely bloodshot. "Try making a scene one more time," he warns. "Make it bigger, let everyone see what kind of alcoholic father you actually are. Have you ever raised me for a single day in your entire pathetic life?" He is practically roaring now, all the pure misery from 2 whole lifetimes caused by this biological father. He screams it all out right here. "You stole my mom's money for booze and gambling. I only survived because of our kind neighbors. You never raised me, so do not expect a funeral. I will sue you, do not forget it." The old man is genuinely terrified by that. The crowd's whispers suddenly shift, pointing right at the dad instead. Our guy lets go, crash, then comes the horrific sound of shattering glass. Watch out, the old man charging with a jagged weapon. The glass bottle flies, but watch this, our guy just stands there, completely frozen. His heart feels nothing but pure exhaustion. A miserable life like his is honestly just totally pointless. Honestly, maybe fading away right now wouldn't be so bad if he died. Evelyn could finally be free from him forever. They would just become 2 parallel lines that never intersect, but right over the horrified screams of the crowd. Evelyn's face from his past life suddenly flashes right before his eyes. It was when he called himself a worthless rat. She just gently held his face right then, forcing him to look deep into her eyes. She spoke with absolute seriousness, word by word. "You have to live your own way. Even if you are just mud, you can still build a solid wall." Then she kissed his eyes with the absolute gentlest voice, whispering, "My love." And man, his body reacts way faster than his brain, like Past life Evelyn just yanked him back a step. That insanely sharp, broken piece of glass slices his arm open. Hot blood spills. That bright crimson suddenly seems to sober up the old guy's drunken brain. Reason finally kicks back in. His hands start trembling violently. His eyes fill with sheer terror. Our guy can't help but let out a dark laugh. This total scumbag, completely abandoned by his own family, is actually terrified of him, scared of actually getting tossed in jail. He grips his bleeding arm, glaring down at this absolute trash. He doesn't feel an ounce of pain. He parts his pale lips, dropping one absolute final warning. I will say this exactly once. Never show your face to me again. Otherwise, with this clear intentional assault charge, I swear you will spend the rest of your pathetic life behind bars. The old man gulps hard. That foul booze stench on the ground mixes with the heavy metallic scent of blood. Why aren't you out of here yet? Do you not see that people already called the cops? That little friendly warning scares the old guy so badly he practically scurries away on all fours. Absolutely pathetic. Our MC casually cleans up the broken glass, tosses it in the trash, and pedals his cargo tricycle right out of there. That old geezer is totally naive. He was definitely bluffing him. You and I know bystanders here are not friends. Who would actually bother calling the cops anyway? He swings by the hospital, gets his arm patched up safely, but his heart feels incredibly heavy. Back in his past life when Evelyn had postpartum depression, she stubbornly refused to admit she had any mental health struggles. He had to run to the hospital constantly for advice. He went so often, the doctor eventually told him, look, no matter how much family cares, new mothers are just extremely susceptible to postpartum depression. Giving birth takes an absolutely massive physical toll and causes extreme exhaustion. Then, right after birth, they instantly have to care for a baby, physically and mentally. They are incredibly fragile. Honestly, care and attention from family sometimes just is not enough to fill that psychological void. It is so ridiculously easy to feel totally lonely and helpless. Every single time he thinks about this, he just wants to slap himself. He feels like absolute garbage. And honestly, what about Evelyn? She was sick herself, but always turned right around and comforted him instead, saying she understood how hard he worked. His poor wife. Seriously, how could she be so amazing? He finally makes it back to his new shack under the bridge, only to find a fresh dog landmine sitting right inside his tent. He just could not hold it back anymore. He crawls outside, literally cursing the heavens. Let's get right into it. He just stared at the dirt for 10 whole minutes, claimed his tent was a doghouse. He definitely didn't expect an actual dog to use it as a personal bathroom. Absolutely nasty. Mumbling curses under his breath, he scrubbed the bedding clean, lay back down, and stared straight up. Looking up through that sketchy handmade sunroof he cut out, he prayed, "Oh moon, please bless the one girl he truly loves. Keep her safe, peaceful, and completely untouched by any actual tragedy or suffering over the next few days." Besides paying off Mr. Stern and his former homeroom teacher, he accidentally bumped into Evelyn exactly one last time. After that, completely vanished from his life. Fast forward a bit, right after those brutal college entrance exams ended, he suddenly spotted Evelyn approaching his food stall. That honestly scared the absolute life out of him. He instantly packed up everything and bolted to a new spot, laying low until she finally headed off to college in another city. Their paths never crossed again. Honestly, exactly what he wanted. Evelyn's shiny new life was officially starting. Time moved so fast since he last laid eyes on Evelyn. Exactly 2 years, 3 months, and 5 days had passed. Look, you and I both know he didn't want to keep track of those exact numbers, but what choices did he have? Born with a freaky memory, the date just stuck in his brain. Our guy even borrowed some old high school textbooks to review. Yeah, turns out he seriously lacked the talent for academics. Hey boss, one grilled sausage. Hearing that way too familiar voice again, he instantly loaded up the spice, snatched the cash, and handed the Food over, he watched old Mr. Harrison absolutely choking from that brutal heat level. He just laughed, twisting open a water bottle. Mr. Harrison, you are seriously unreal. How do you keep finding my stall no matter where I hide it? For the last couple of years, trying to dodge Evelyn during the holidays, our guy moved locations constantly, but somehow this old man always found him, like some hidden tracking device was stuck to his back, showing up perfectly on cue. Harrison shot him a super smug glance, happily patting his massive beer belly. Our main guy just chuckled, staring directly at the teacher's rapidly fading hairline. He honestly had to warn the old dude, look, you are not exactly a spring chicken anymore. Go easy on the greasy stuff. Seriously, watch your back for high blood pressure and diabetes. Naturally, the stubborn teacher waved him off, completely ignoring the warning. He could only shrug in defeat. After dealing with another random hungry customer, he grabbed a tiny red velvet box from his coat, his eyes totally shining with genuine joy. This is for you, sir. Your absolute worst student was way too terrified to embarrass you directly, so I laid low. Just take this as an apology. Present, oh wow, you crazy kid. Watch your mouth. Mr. Harrison casually chucked his bamboo skewer straight into the trash, wiped his greasy hands on his shirt, and accepted the gift, a slick fountain pen. I actually love this, even the few remaining hairs on his bald head practically danced with joy. Our guy was just baffled. It was a pretty cheap little thing. Did he actually need to be this hyped? What gives? Do the other students show up with absolutely nothing? Nope. It is totally just the thought that matters here. That is the most valuable part. Now watch him fake cleaning the hot grill, using that chance to smoothly pivot the entire chat back to Evelyn. The second he brought up Evelyn, his all-time favorite genius student, Mr. Harrison immediately got incredibly hyped up. Evelyn, oh man, absolutely. That girl is just on another level. Elite at literally everything she touches. Obviously, Mr. Harrison flipped the nice fountain pen around in his hands, staring super hard at those tiny engraved English words. Engraved right on the barrel, the teacher's tongue practically tied itself in knots. He couldn't pronounce a single word right. Chad seriously didn't understand it. Why was a math teacher sweating over English letters anyway? Then he noticed Mr. Harrison suddenly turned his back, hiding something. No clue what the guy was doing back there. Wait, was he actually crying tears of joy? Chad was just about to comfort him when he whipped around like he just got shocked, holding the pen like a scorching hot potato. Why is this thing so ridiculously expensive? Are you completely crazy? Take it back right now. Mr. Harrison held his cup, frantically trying to shove the fancy pen right back into its box, but he kept missing the slot entirely. Just take it, sir. You are basically family, based on his past life. Well, we know our guy wasn't just flipping sausages. He was light years ahead of the market. He already stacked up some very serious cash pretty early on. Renting a local factory, he was basically just retracing his path to absolute wealth. Running this little street stall now, just a fun, personal little hobby. Plus, Mr. Harrison supported him through thick and thin for all these years. The poor guy's secret allowance stash from his wife, yeah, it was totally drained by Chad. So, after a super long session of convincing him, Mr. Harrison finally felt safe enough to tuck that fancy pen into his pocket. Thanks, Chad. Our hero just rolled his eyes. I told you a million times, old man, call me Sage Hania. Drop the basic name. Mr. Harrison just casually fiddled with the pen in his pocket, totally pouting. Sure thing, Chad. Hearing that sarcastic tone, our guy absolutely had to glare right back. He was just speaking pure nonsense. How did you even come up with a scholarly name? I never once noticed you having an ounce of culture before. Ha, it is a great name. Right in his past life, Evelyn actually picked it out for him. Sage, wow, one listen and it sounds way too scholarly. Mr. Harrison nodded, hesitated for a couple of seconds, and then just shook his head. Why does that sound like you are seasoning a turkey? Seasoning a turkey? Are you even from around here? Your accent is loud. Chad couldn't help but completely turn around, staring at Mr. Harrison in pure shock. staring so hard the guy got seriously creeped out. How did he know? Back in his past life, he begged Evelyn for really solid name. She thought on it for days, giving him a few options. That name. Chad was just her playfully teasing him, since he never caused her any real trouble. She would just pat his head and randomly quote poetry, but he knew sage meant wise. He totally understood it all, the heavy burdens trapped inside Evelyn's heart. He understood them perfectly, so the exact second he saw that unique name, he just loved it immediately. Wait, do all educated people share some kind of unspoken telepathic link? Looking up at the sky, he decided to just pack up. Slathered sauce on the remaining sausages, packed every single one up, and handed them right over to Mr. Harrison. Give these to your wife, without even waiting for Mr. Harrison to pull out cash. He hopped straight onto his precious little tricycle and bolted out of there like actual lightning, parking his bike by the bridge. Truth is, he moved out from under there ages ago. You and I both know he just built a doghouse down there. He was about to call out to his loyal army of strays, but before he even reached the house, he spotted the exact silhouette of the one person he had been deeply longing for, standing right there in the open. Absolute madness. What is Evelyn doing here? All right, you and I are jumping right in. Chad totally panicked, dodging behind a tree. She took off her glasses, smoothing her hair. Seriously, her beauty just absolutely radiated. Evelyn, please stop being so sad. Your dad will be totally fine. Right then, Chad spotted someone else beside Evelyn, squatting down and happily playing with the puppies. Well, would you look at that, an old acquaintance, her best friend, Chloe. He recalled she was a novelist. Chad was staring so hard at Evelyn before he completely missed her. Evelyn just dropped her head, a quiet hint of deep sorrow filling her eyes, those slightly knitted brows. They completely broke his heart. Chad smacked his forehead, trying desperately to recall this exact timeline from his past life, what actually happened to his highly respected future father-in-law. Back in that life, Evelyn suddenly asked for a massive leave of absence from her college. Before explaining a single thing to him, she just totally bolted. Chad's factory was barely launching then. She demanded he stay and run things, refusing to let him follow, so he just transferred all his available cash straight to her cards. Later, after practically interrogating her forever, she finally admitted her dad broke his leg. Both of her parents were regular factory workers. Her dad was always climbing around up high, hence the brutal fall. Chad frowned hard, his nails digging fiercely into the bark. Evelyn shook her head, softly petted the dog, and walked away with her best friend. Her shoulders looked so incredibly heavy. He stayed hidden for several minutes, making absolutely sure they were long gone. Only then did Chad finally step out from behind the tree. Spotting their old pal, the neighborhood dog army immediately swarmed him entirely. With his mind totally elsewhere, he poured out their food, reached down and rubbed the little puppy's head. It felt like the lingering warmth of Evelyn's touch was somehow still there, even though his highly respected future father-in-law shattered his leg. The guy refused to touch a single penny Chad gave Evelyn. The old man was terrified that taking cash meant his daughter would have to act subservient to Chad forever. His love was amazing. Her folks were cut from that exact same cloth. Eventually, Chad sneaked behind Evelyn's back, claiming he was just there to repay an old debt. He even faked a whole contract with interest. Under his massive barrage of promises, the old man finally gave him a stiff nod. You are never allowed to mistreat my daughter. If you do, I'll break your legs too. His future in-laws were just fiercely honest, decent people, the kind who would literally rather sell everything they owned than ever beg their friends for help. Thinking back on this hilariously stubborn, adorable father-in-law, Chad honestly loved that guy way too much. He slapped his forehead, immediately calling his factory to yell out some quick instructions. Then he carefully picked out pricey gifts that deliberately didn't look too flashy and marched straight to Mr. Harrison's house, executing a totally flawless power slide right onto his knees. Holding the gifts up high, Chad tightly hugged Mr. Harrison and his wife's legs, making absolutely sure to greet them. Respectfully, honestly, you and I gotta respect this guy's shamelessness, otherwise he never would have. Scored a girl like Evelyn in his past life, once Chad finally finished. Explaining his totally wild request, Mr. Harrison instantly pouted, the intense look on his face practically vanished. He just gave Chad the most speechless eye roll ever. Chad, it's just a tiny favor. Seriously, why not just spit it out? You scared him half to death looking. At that intense dramatic act, he honestly thought you needed help embezzling money or something crazy. All right then, the adorable father-in-law, wait no, the son-in-law from his past life was totally right there. Ready to save the day. After lingering at Mr. Harrison's place on his way out, he glanced at Harrison's tiny grandson. Welcome to the real world, kiddo. Study super hard, otherwise you might end up just like him. But before he could even finish that sentence, Harrison kicked him straight out. That massive anti-theft door slammed shut with a massive bang, locked tight, absolutely ruthless. Once again he marveled at what a kind guy Mr. Harrison was. The old man just couldn't bear to use him as a free warning sign for his grandson. Harrison even told our guy he waived the copyright fee, seriously, but thinking about Evelyn's massive mess, he still felt totally uneasy. She was way too stubborn. You and I know these past few days must have been absolute hell for her, so slapping his thigh, he began staking out her best friend Chloe's place. The girl was ditching classes to hide at home. In his past life, he knew this girl was a huge homebody, but he had no idea she was this extreme of a total shut-in. Waiting an entire day, he quickly zipped his jacket all the way up, burying half his face. Wow, they are giving out free balloons at the amusement park. The Ferris wheel is totally free today, a wildly good deal like this only happens once in a lifetime. Seeing Chloe's completely ice-cold face yield absolutely zero reaction, he quickly dodged into the alleyway. Taking off his jacket, he flipped it inside out and threw it right back on. Thank God he was a genius. Planning ahead with a reversible jacket, he waddled back over right next to Chloe, fully pretending to be just some random passerby. Oh my God, they are giving away balloons at the amusement park. The Ferris wheel is totally free today. Wow. Wow, you only get an insane deal like this once in a lifetime. After that, he quickly stripped his jacket off completely and pretended to casually stroll past Chloe again. Holy smokes, the amusement park has free balloons and totally free Ferris wheel rides. Today, this is an absolute once-in-a-lifetime event. I definitely have to go with my bestie, just as our hero debated going totally shirtless for a desperate fourth pass, he finally heard her calling Evelyn. Evie, the Ferris wheel is totally free today. Evelyn clearly said no. Chloe instantly flipped a switch right to her classic whining voice. Please, Evie, I am begging you here. Come with me just this once, please. He watched her flash a totally smug smile and immediately turn around to sprint upstairs. Awesome, the plan was a massive success, but before his joy could fully settle, an icy wind blew past. He instantly sneezed. Damn it, who was talking trash about our guy behind his back? He sniffled and put his jacket back on properly, based on Evelyn's usual daily habits. Her makeup routine always took exactly 35 minutes, so he had plenty of time to stroll over to the amusement park. But the exact moment he sat on that tricycle, he looked up and saw Chloe sprinting right downstairs after changing her clothes. His eyes completely bugged out. She was making a run for it before him. Now watch this. Evelyn must be incredibly depressed to just leave the house without putting a single drop of makeup on. His poor heart completely shattered into tiny pieces. He rolled up his sleeves and started pedaling that precious tricycle like his actual life depended on it, until he finally saw Chloe stop right under Evelyn's apartment building. Only then did our guy dare to breathe a little. Finally, some breathing room, but his legs, they didn't dare stop pedaling this bike. His trusty two-wheeled warhorse, our guy pedaled like an absolute maniac, pushing hard, making it there a full 10 minutes early. One glance and he instantly locked onto Evelyn. She definitely looked a lot thinner than before. her hair tied back casually in a simple low ponytail, faint dark circles under her eyes. He confidently walked over. Taking that bright sunflower balloon he was gripping tightly in his left hand, and holding it right in front of her, then casually shoved another one right at Chloe too. Evelyn looked completely caught off guard, but her eyes instantly lit up. Her lips quickly curled up into this super warm, genuine smile. Finally that heavy sorrow from earlier completely vanished. "Thank you," she said, gently taking the balloon with a polite nod. Then she walked right past him. Chloe practically shook Evelyn by the arm. "See, Evie, I told you they had free balloons today. The Ferris wheel is free too." He followed them quietly from a safe distance. "Come on, Evie, stop frowning. Your dad and his crazy expensive hospital bills are totally sorted out now, right? The heavens finally showed your family some mercy, but it just feels so completely unreal. What are you even scared of? The cash is right there in the bank. The money is real." Evelyn just smiled softly, tying that sunflower balloon right to her wrist. "Yeah. You are right, the heavens are actually showing me mercy. Our guy had just run out of balloons to give out. Mr. Harrison pulling those strings behind the scenes, super reliable. You and I have to admit, this sneaky behind-the-scenes master plan of his made him feel like a total genius, but that smug vibe did not last more than a few seconds. While the girls waited in line, he stood behind them, winking frantically right at the staff member. When their turn finally came, the bribed worker quickly stepped right forward to say hi. "Wow, you two ladies, your luck today is absolutely amazing. You are exactly our 100th guest this afternoon, so this Ferris wheel ride is completely free of charge." After that, the worker quickly shoved two pretty flowers right into Evelyn's hands. Sunlight suddenly pierced through the clouds, beautifully throwing a warm, glowing layer of golden light across the ground. She gently smelled that gorgeous flower resting right her hand. Her movements were so incredibly soft, like she was afraid of breaking this perfect gift that just fell from the sky. Evelyn slowly closed her eyes. Her face showed this unspeakable peace and deep, genuine contentment. Back when he ran his street stall, he would buy fresh flower every single day for Evelyn's hair, to the point where the local florist lady totally recognized him now. She even gave our guy a solid 20% discount. He handpicked this specific flower himself. He just knew Evelyn would absolutely love it. Evelyn happily linked arms with her best friend, stepping right into the giant Ferris wheel. Her smiling eyes looked down, quietly taking in the huge amusement park down below. He felt her gaze sweep right over him. Instantly, he threw both arms up, making a giant heart shape. He could vaguely see Evelyn tap her friend on the arm, pointing downward. The massive Ferris wheel slowly turned. He just looked up, quietly watching it spin round and round. You see, in his past life, they got engaged on this exact same Ferris wheel. He silently hoped this ride would wash away all his past life regrets. The wheel finally came to a complete stop. Evelyn and Chloe stepped off, arm in arm. Her bangs fluttered slightly in the soft breeze, blending perfectly with that sweet floral scent. He heard Chloe laugh. "Your luck really is completely amazing today." "Yeah, I think so too." After that, Evelyn played a bunch of other fun games. He always stayed close by, watching. You and I can see him watching them happily snapping away. The sun slowly sinks down. That golden hour light gets wonderfully soft. The entire skyline erupts into vibrant streaks of orange, deep red, and soft purple. Light catches Evelyn's outfit, shifting its beautiful colors. But the real magic here, there is a stunning, real smile locked on Evelyn's face. Chad patiently waits until they look exhausted, ready to head home. Right then, our guy whips out an instant camera, holding up a simple cardboard sign reading, "Free photos, zero charge." "Oh, it is you. You are still hanging around here." Evelyn checks him out, her eyes forming cheerful little half-moons. She points right toward the Ferris wheel, copies his goofy pose, and flashes a quick little finger heart. "Yep, I've always been right here." Chad nods, aiming the lens, and captures an absolutely flawless shot. Evelyn presses a sweet flower against her cheek. Golden sunlight shines straight through the soft petals, washing over her features, creating this incredibly beautiful, glowing halo effect. Seeing Evelyn through that little viewfinder, our guy's heart literally skips a beat. He presses the button, the fresh Polaroid slides right out. The Evelyn stuck on that film looks totally breathtaking. Now you and I both know postpartum depression ruins lives. In his past life, when Evelyn got sick, she would literally scream herself completely hoarse over the absolute smallest little issues. After finally calming down, she would grab her face, weeping so uncontrollably, and wildly apologizing to him. Back then, she broke every single mirror inside their home, simply because looking at her own reflection became unbearable. Her poor body was completely wrecked. Her face appeared incredibly worn out. Every single day spawned pure, bitter resentment. "Thank you so much," Evelyn beams right at him, grabbing the photo before huddling with her friend to whisper quiet secrets. Chad turns around and walks away, watching her incredibly confident posture. He breathes out a massive sigh of pure relief. Then he drags his completely exhausted legs right toward the staff break room. The very moment that heavy mascot head comes off, he crashes straight onto the cold tiles. Sniffling hard, he realizes he has officially caught a really nasty bug. The entire room spins wildly. Groggily, he blinks awake, only to see Evelyn herself peeking through the open door. He blasts upward from the floor like a fired rocket. Desperately scrambling for that plush head, he watches Evelyn walk straight up, looking incredibly surprised. "Chad, wow, it has been a long time." No, see, once she gets a clear look at that mascot suit in his hands, the joy in her eyes visibly brightens. "So the man hiding inside that suit was you. I was truly wondering why you seemed so wildly familiar." Chad violently shakes his head, immediately denying the facts. But before our guy can formulate a single sentence, "Just returning the gear since I finished using it today. I only work part-time here." His terrified brain literally cannot invent any better fake excuse. He just gives her a rigid, awkward nod after finally putting the suit away. He totally ignores that glaring expression on Evelyn's face, loudly screaming she desperately wants to talk. He takes huge, panicked steps straight out of there. Shoving past the door, he accidentally smashes right into Chloe's shoulder. "So sorry about that." Then he pivots sideways and absolutely sprints away from the scene. He walks a super long distance. Only then does our guy actually dare to breathe, slowly sliding down a cold brick wall. He wipes away a single rogue tear that escapes. Then he sniffles miserably, sneezes super hard, and desperately runs all the way back home. But no matter how much he tries dodging her, the reality, for a seriously long time, he just quits setting up his little street stall completely. Mr. Harrison keeps asking if he died. You and I gotta wonder, can he not invent a better excuse for our guy? It is not until Chad quietly sneaks. All right, picture this. He headed to the hospital, just waiting for his father-in-law to finally get discharged, before he finally dared to peacefully resume running his little street stall. The next few days passed pretty quietly. He couldn't help it. Mr. Harrison honestly had zero clue. His secret factory was totally booming. Every single day he opened up the food stall on time, then visited the doghouse under the bridge to feed those stray pups. Every night he just stared at the moon, grinning like a complete idiot for a while. Days like these, actually not that hard to survive. Plus, Evelyn had already graduated from college. She was Evelyn, after all, absolutely brilliant. Especially since in this timeline, she wasn't weighed down by him, just like his past life. She smoothly got accepted as a direct entry grad student right at the university. Mr. Harrison, freezing his toes off, still showed up to support our guys' business. Our hero was seriously touched, rubbing his freezing, raw red hands together. He handed a super spicy sausage to Harrison, who was bundled up like a giant ball in that puffy coat. He watched him struggle with his gloves just to scan the QR code to pay. Of course, Harrison claimed to be his biggest hardcore fan. Why hadn't he offered a free meal yet? He teased right back, asking if Mr. Harrison was truly short on this tiny bit of cash right now. The money in his bank account was probably Having babies by now. Hearing that sweet flattery, Mr. Harrison immediately tilted his chin up, looking so smug, and took a bite. His face instantly broke. Out in a heavy sweat, he crushed half the sausage, seeing our guy wasn't saying anything. Harrison couldn't help but let out a huff, forcing the conversation. Himself asking why he wasn't begging for fresh gossip about Evelyn today. Our guy's eyes totally bugged out, seeing Mr. Harrison's incredibly smug, know-it-all expression. He yanked him closer, dropped his voice to a whisper, and asked, "How did you know?" How did he know? Mr. Harrison literally pouted, shooting him a seriously hardcore side-eye. It had been years, even an absolute idiot would figure it out. Talking while pretending to work, the old man swore the brutal cold was freezing his eyeballs right over. Did he honestly think he could fool him with that peanut-sized brain? From his school days, he tossed the wooden skewer right into the trash. Evelyn was currently still completely single. If he liked her, he better go chase her. He shook his head, just staring blankly at the hot grill. By the time he finally snapped out of it, he looked up and saw absolutely nobody in front of him. Mr. Harrison left without even saying goodbye. Just one single question, and the old man held a massive grudge. Is it true that only petty people can actually hold onto their wealth? The snow fell heavier and heavier. Gradually, the entire canopy of his little sausage cart was covered in glittering icicles. He held one right in his hand, idly playing with it. Back in his past life, he loved making snowballs and pressing his freezing hands right against Evelyn's cheeks, just waiting for her to pretend to be super mad, then grabbing her puffy coat and wrapping her up tightly. His arms, the cold icicle in his hand, had completely melted away now. He reached up to brush the snowy canopy, and wait for it. You won't believe who was right in front of him. Long time no see. Evelyn stood right there in the falling snow, tilting her head, smiling beautifully right at him. She adjusted her scarf, revealing cheeks flushed bright red from the biting cold. A thin layer of snow had already gathered right on top of her head. Evelyn, what are you even doing here? Before he could even express shock at her sudden appearance, seeing that snow in her hair, by the time his brain finally processed it, his body had umbrella in hand. Our guy was standing right beside her. Evelyn glanced straight up at him, her eyes forming those beautiful little crescents. Rocking that makeup, she looked absolutely stunning. His cheeks instantly caught fire. I mean, seriously, right in the dead of winter, our boy was basically freezing to death. He nearly spilled way more secrets than he probably should have. Thank goodness he caught himself. Evelyn just stared straight down at his snow-covered grill, then right back into his eyes. Those tiny snowflakes resting on her eyelashes had melted into crystal-clear droplets. His heart totally skipped a beat. She said she came to say thank you. Thank him for what exactly? Our MC totally played dumb. But then Evelyn untied her scarf, draping it over her arm to show off her pale neck. She said, I came to thank the guy who helped me get my purse back, the guy who went through literal hell bringing my dad that hospital money, and to sincerely thank the person who gave me a flower. She fired off that whole entire speech in one breath, with every single word. His heart basically skipped another beat. He did not even dare meet her gaze. Instantly looking far away, Evelyn just tilted her head, and he completely accidentally locked eyes with her again. He tried claiming she had the wrong guy, but before he even finished talking, her best friend Chloe leaped right out from some completely random corner holding two umbrellas. Looking exactly like an absolutely crazed detective, she smirked. You want to see the security footage from that alley? Want to hear the testimony from the amusement park manager? Right after that, she violently yanked a shrinking Mr. Harrison straight out of his hiding spot. Need a character witness. His brain was totally short-circuiting. You and I know he had absolutely no clue what to say. He just stared at Mr. Harrison, who was furiously avoiding any eye contact. Evelyn, you are totally overthinking this. I just happened to be there by pure coincidence. Overthinking it, my foot. Chloe and Mr. Harrison yelled in perfect unison, their jaws completely dropping wide open, their faces practically screaming, yeah, we will believe you when pigs actually fly. With those two Causing an absolute massive scene. Evelyn, on the other hand, just burst out laughing. She shifted her gaze toward him, staring directly into his eyes, heavily emphasizing every single word. His lips moved silently for a long moment. Well, Evelyn, please. Just do not overthink this. I seriously need to go home now. He turned around, fully ready to instantly bolt, but his wrist was clamped super tight, held back by Evelyn. He honestly admired his own total lack of a spine. She barely touched him, and half his body went completely weak. Good Lord, her hands were just as soft as he remembered. Evelyn playfully tugged him hard a few times. Realizing she could not move him an inch, she raised an eyebrow and decisively walked right around to stand directly in front of him. She pouted, looking a little bit unhappy, looking totally disappointed. Our guy definitely wanted to pull his hand back, but his left arm was acting like it did not belong to him. He could not muster a single ounce of strength. Right at that exact moment, Evelyn suddenly looked up, got slightly up on her tiptoes, her absolutely sparkling eyes staring right at him. Do you want to try dating me? Such an insanely direct question. He wanted to open his mouth and reject her, but his head felt incredibly heavy. He could not move a single muscle. He must have caught a bad cold again before he could even figure out what to say. Evelyn's eyes suddenly went completely dark. Watch closely. Based on his past life experience, he knew exactly what this was. Evelyn was playing totally pitiful to guilt trip him, usually. At times exactly like this, he would pinch her cheeks and smile as he completely surrendered. But that was all back in his past life. He looked at the gorgeous Evelyn standing in front of him. He truly. You and I know Julian wanted to call her bluff, but his throat just locked up. Silence. Not a single word. Evelyn just clasped her hands together, that absolutely flawless face of hers leaning straight into his personal space. Please, we can even start by getting to know each other completely over again. She gave the poor guy absolutely zero chance to even breathe. Hello there, my name is Evelyn. Julian's hand, visibly shaking right now, he panicked, closed the gap, grabbed his cup, and just awkwardly shoved it into her hands. His voice completely cracked. My name is Julian Sage, she smiled. That name sounds really nice, obviously because his true love said so. Good Lord, our MC is a total spineless simp. Evelyn leaned in just a tiny bit closer, and Julian's brain literally just flatlined. Game over. The craziest part, she flashed him this insanely gorgeous smile. Lord, this is an absolute honey trap. He admitted total defeat. That move, super effective against our guy. He just stood there, eyes darting everywhere for half an eternity. Finally, the teacher, Mr. Harrison, had seen enough. Smack, he slapped Julian upside the head. What the heck are you so worried about, kid? What was Julian stressing over? Well, he thought, as a total garbage student, he was completely unworthy of a girl like her. He feared holding back her massive academic dreams. By the time he mumbled all this out loud, the former class president reached over and smacked his head again. Boom. Who dates without dealing with a little messiness? Let me ask you this one thing. Would you ever hurt her? Julian snapped his head up, seeing Evelyn slowly walking toward him. Something finally clicked in his dense brain, a total wake-up call. Julian rushed forward, stepping right in front of Evelyn. He desperately needed a clear answer. Evelyn, her beautiful face instantly flushed a bright, drop-dead gorgeous shade of red. Her lips parted slightly. I do want to, she whispered back. Hearing that, Julian instantly panicked all over again. What if someone bullies you? What if you get sick when you are pregnant? Evelyn just rolled her eyes playfully, tilting her head over to glance at Mr. Harrison. The guy was furiously winking at her, so she immediately played along, faking this look of totally deep concern. She looked up. Yeah. Exactly, what do I do then? Julian just frantically rubbed his hands together. Here is where you and I pay attention. The thought of Evelyn getting bullied made him so furious. He literally wanted to commit crimes. She grabbed his hands, gently and so patiently asking, would you treat me like that? Never. Julian answered her with absolute, pure ironclad certainty. The chaotic, nervous mess inside his head instantly vanished, staring right at his Reflection in her beautiful eyes, he proposed with complete sincerity. Evelyn, if you want a guy who will treat you perfectly, could you please prioritize considering me? After dropping that massive line, he frantically raised his hand to swear in. Oath, the house deed will only have your name, and it absolutely will not delay your doctorate studies at all. Kids, we wait until you feel completely ready. I swear it, I absolutely will not let you suffer from postpartum depression. Ever again. Julian had not even finished his whole speech. Evelyn, blushing fiercely, reached out and covered his mouth. What are you even rambling about? You are already thinking about marriage and babies, she pouted shyly, leaning right into his ear and whispered, if you want to marry me, start by being my boyfriend first. Julian just stared blankly at her teasing smile, his heart hammering like a literal war drum. Behind him, you and I could vaguely hear the old class president let out a massive sigh of relief. Man, why get so? Are you crying? It wasn't until Evelyn's hand gently touched his eyes that he finally realized his own tears were falling, pure, raw emotion just taking over. He threw his arms wide open, pulling the very love he desperately craved every single night tightly into his embrace. Everything that happened after this reunion was basically exactly like his past life, except way smoother this time around, armed with absolutely sincere promises and a massive stack of house deeds. His future father-in-law, even after actually admitting out loud that he was satisfied with our boy, just couldn't resist glaring and rolling his eyes at him. Honestly, you and I know if some punk stole his prized daughter, his own reaction would be 10 times worse. But Evelyn, she saw right through all his deeply hidden insecurities. Lifting his face, she looked at him with absolute tenderness. I love you, my love. Seriously, who could resist that? They had to get married right then and there. Come wedding day, the guest list was practically identical to his previous life. On his side, thanks to that alcoholic old man, his relatives had cut ties ages ago, so the guests for his side were mostly their old classmates and relatives from the bride's side. Their classmates, absolutely shell-shocked. Nobody ever saw coming that Evelyn would actually get snatched up by a total academic slacker like him. But initial shock aside, everyone still offered their most genuine blessings. He accidentally spotted their old class president secretly wiping away tears over in a corner. He was just about to tease the guy, but then caught him chugging water like his actual life depended on it. Seeing our groom, the guy hissed, inhaling from the insane heat. Next time you grill sausages, could you please not dump so much chili on them? His mouth twitched, giving a helpless nod. Then, just turning his head, he caught Evelyn's best friend Chloe shooting him a super mischievous wink. He thought for a second, leaned in to gently massage Evelyn's waist, and quietly whispered to ask her, those novels your best friend writes, what genre are they? Some intense thriller? Horror? Yeah, that explained a whole lot. He wrapped his arm around Evelyn's shoulder and walked forward. They toasted her best friend with a full glass, and even though he took absolutely every precaution, the timing was exactly the same as his past life, not a single second off. Feeling super suspicious, he accidentally caught Evelyn's smug look of mission accomplished. Now watch this, because it's true what they say. You can guard every single direction, but you absolutely cannot prevent an inside job. Just like in his previous life, Evelyn was fiercely determined to have a baby. His adorable in-laws also took their turns dropping their endless lectures, constantly advising him, basically making the actual biological father look like some ultimate villain. He had no choice. Thankfully, from the day he married Evelyn, he had been completely on guard. He moved his factory down to the exact city she was studying in. Everything was perfectly set up. He became a totally hands-off boss, spending his days at home just researching recipes, delivering meals to Evelyn right on time every single day. Then, through some random eavesdropping, he found out that the people in her studio secretly called him the ultimate model husband. That title was no joke. If they handed him a Certificate of merit, it would be absolutely perfect, completely terrified that Evelyn might suffer from postpartum depression like his past life. You and I know he felt totally awkward, so he finally moved in. He even snatched their phones, literally whispering postpartum right into the microphones. Depression on repeat, honestly. Big data algorithms are absolutely terrifying. Boom, her social feeds instantly flooded with helpful videos, and every day, Evelyn smiled beautifully, a totally genuine, glowing smile right from the absolute bottom of her heart. Plus, every single day, he secretly texted Evelyn's parents her latest status. And thank goodness, right up until delivery, those dark symptoms from their previous timeline never even appeared. Thank heavens, his one true love was finally safe when Evelyn came out of that delivery room and finally woke up. She just started laughing. I'm the one who just gave birth. Her hand gently wiped his red, tear-soaked eyes the very moment she said that. He completely broke down sobbing. Now, exactly like in his past life, that massive sausage ingredient scandal blew up online. But wait, he had future knowledge. He instantly live-streamed their entire factory production line, right from sourcing to processing. They made every single step 100% transparent. As a result, since their ingredients were genuinely spotless, the entire brand blew up, suddenly becoming even more insanely popular. Oh, and that awful old guy, right after Evelyn had the baby, he stayed firmly by her side 24/7. She happily cuddled their sweet daughter. That creepy old geezer had absolutely zero chance of getting anywhere near Evelyn, but most importantly, he pulled an absolute genius move that year. Right after getting stabbed by him before, he went straight to the hospital for an official injury assessment. Later, that exact old man actually showed his ugly face again. The very second he appeared, he slammed that official injury report right into his face, directly threatening to call the cops. It terrified the old dude so badly he completely vanished for good. Later, he bought some beautiful bright sunflowers from a shop and grabbed a very cute little cactus for his tiny daughter. But right as he stepped out of the shop, "Look, sweetie, it's daddy." His eyes just completely crinkled up into a huge, warm smile. He so gently took his daughter from Evelyn's arms. "Let's go home, daddy. We'll cook dinner for you both." Late that night, he warmly held Evelyn as they slept. Out of nowhere, she kissed him. "What's wrong?" he mumbled, nuzzling his head against her. He was honestly still half asleep. Then he groggily heard her quietly whisper, "I'm so sorry. You've worked so incredibly hard running back and forth from the factory and in our past life." He yawned sleepily, not fully processing the words, snuggling deeper into Evelyn's embrace, feeling soft, warm tears fall directly onto his face. "It's not hard work at all." Evelyn's eyes seriously burned with heavy tears, staring at her deeply sleeping husband right in front of her. She softly patted his cheek. "When this entire second life started, you actually tried pushing me away. Thank goodness I never gave up on you." You and I know. Whenever she recalled the events of their painful first life, she was just so sick back then. This absolute idiot stubbornly holding on, totally refusing to ever let go. Evelyn lost every single trace of sleepiness. She quietly slipped right out of bed, tucked him in securely, then sat on the edge. She opened her phone, slowly scrolling through old photos taken at the amusement park years ago. And check this out, in the corner of almost every single photo, you can clearly spot the silhouette of a mascot bear. That goofy teddy bear in the photo was clumsily making a massive heart shape. Evelyn scrolled through them, one by one. The more she warmly smiled, the harder her tears fell. Her fingers stopped on the very "Let's look at this final photo." High-angle shot. Honestly, no wonder she still fell helplessly for this lovable idiot in this life. Suddenly, he rolls over next to her, hand blindly searching the sheets. He actually mumbles her name in his sleep, "Wifey." "I am right here, just ran to the bathroom." Then hurry back, he grumbles, hearing his sleepy rambling. Her eyes drift over to a drawer left slightly cracked open, revealing the edge of some paper completely hidden inside a book. She instinctively Reaches over and slips the hidden paper out. She throws on her lightweight. Reading glasses, behind those lenses, you can literally see pure exhaustion, written right on. That paper, the moon plan. Step 1, drop out of school. Step 2, start a business as fast as humanly possible. But step 3, nothing but a single lonely. Period. Yeah, this absolute idiot obviously could not figure out a single thing. Beyond that, his grades were total trash back in high school anyway, way too hard. For him, this whole epic master plan, just a random scrap he had. Casually ripped right off an old test paper, and that handwriting, total chicken. Scratch, she quietly tucks the note back and slides under the warm covers. Evelyn just shakes her head, smiling softly. Beside her, he groggily opens his eyes. Half asleep, he snuggles forward again, reaching out his large hand and pulling the love of his life right back into his arms. The moon has returned to his embrace. And there we go, you and I just finished this beautiful story right here. If you found this emotional journey as amazing as I did, drop a like and subscribe to the channel.